You're listening to The Women in the Arena. I'm your host, Paige and Grace, former collegiate athlete turned leadership entrepreneur for women just like you. Each week, I'm bringing you a new person or message to help you expand and elevate into the woman you know you're meant to be. Now, let's step into the arena. Hey, you guys, Happy New Year. I don't know when we need to stop saying Happy New Year, but this is the first interview for the Women in the Arena podcast in 2024. And I'm really excited to bring you our guest today, which is Grace Casey. And she is a good hometown friend of mine. And we had the pleasure of working together back in 2020 when she started her company that she's going to tell you all about. And I'm just really excited to have you here. So thanks for making the time for us, Grace.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm excited to talk to you about Paper Clouds since you were instrumental in helping me launch it a few years ago.
So back in 2020 is the time that we're referencing. And a lot of people found a lot of time on their hands. And you have always been really creative. I remember that from back in high school and growing up together. So tell us what Paper Clouds is and then how it came to fruition.
Yeah, so Paper Clouds is an all-in-one craft kit company. Our motto is a creative escape for busy people. How I get started, as you said, like I was always very into art and painting in high school. And I even applied to some colleges to go to their art schools, but then I pivoted and I thought art isn't going to be a money-making route, so I didn't do that. And when I graduated, I entered the corporate world and I pursued a sales background, and creativity just fell to the wayside. I never painted anymore, just never felt like I had time to take out all my paints and get to work. Then when the pandemic hit, I suddenly did have all this extra free time. I was home a lot and I started to get back to those creative roots. And this business idea kind of emerged in my head, like maybe I can help other busy people find space for creativity. And I figured might as well give it a go. But it was daunting because I didn't know how to start a business and all of the things that go into it. And I needed a little bit of help, which is when I enrolled in your coaching program.
Yeah, I remember that literally like it was yesterday because I was just floored with your idea. I thought, man, this just makes so much sense. And this has to come to life because I think more people need it. Can you speak to why creativity is so important in our lives and why it was so important for you to make space for that, not only personally, but to help other busy people make space for creativity?
Yeah, for sure. There's a scientific fact that I like to tell people, which is that creativity actually increase dopamine, which makes you happy, and decrease cortisol, which creates stress. So sometimes you probably think like, it's not necessary, right? Like I have a million other things to do, especially if you have a family. So like, why invest? But really, it's like the ultimate form of self-care because you're helping yourself de-stress, you're helping yourself create dopamine in it. Creativity can come in so many different forms. It can be cooking, it can be decorating your house, creating music, whatever it is, but we all need it. It's really good for us.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. When I think about creativity in my own life, I think about finding a way to come up with courses that are going to really be impactful for women in their lives. And so when I think back to that initial mastermind, I think it was more geared towards entrepreneurs getting off their feet, because I think sometimes you have this really great idea and I feel like our ideas are given to us for a reason and it's not meant for anybody else. So it's like our job to see it through. But for a lot of us, we get stuck at the how. And it's like, okay, but I don't have a business career. I don't have this experience. So how am I going to do this? Right. And so that how a lot of times holds us back. So in the beginning, I remember us talking about the name and then the logo and then all of those steps. How did you start to build that momentum? Like what kept you going when you didn't know how?
Well, it's funny, like the more creative parts of creating a company have come easier to me, like coming up with a name and a logo and brand envisioning what I wanted the brand to be. But then the more administrative side, like trying to figure out how to register an LLC. I don't know if you remember, but I procrastinated that for months because I was like, it's so complicated. I can't do it. And then finally, when I set the time to do it, I was like, oh, it actually wasn't that bad. Having your course on coaching and talking to other people at the time kept consistency for me. Like every week, what did I accomplish? I remember you had asked things like that. I think we had like wins and stretches every week or something similar. So you could kind of see like what progress you've made and what you still needed to do. So yeah, it was really about the consistency and staying on top of things.
Yeah, totally. The accountability. And it's so funny you say that too, because there's women that I talk to who seemingly feel guilty or like something's wrong with them when they're like, what does it say about me that I need structure? I need support. I'm like, well, it means you're human and like everybody needs it. And so I think it's really brave when you step into an arena that you're not really comfortable with, but you trust yourself to find the resources and you at least trust yourself to figure it out. It's not that you know it all. It's that you trust yourself to figure it out. So as you've navigated growth and change, a lot of things have happened for you both personally and professionally since then. So catch us up a little bit. Where are you now and what's changed since then?
When I launched Paper Clouds, I had come up with all of these crafts that were like a little more unique and niche. And I thought, because there's already a lot of candle kits out there, so I'm going to do different things. And then I realized like that's maybe too niche and I need to go back mainstream a little bit. And I did launch a candle kit. So there's been a lot that's happened and like scrapping what didn't work and trying to figure out what does work. And I think that's one of my biggest learnings so far as business owner is like being really honest with yourself about what's working and what's not and staying open to potentially a different route that you didn't initially set out on. Workshops is not something that I really thought about, like a group workshop in the beginning, because this was kind of a solo craft. You get your kit, you open it up, it has everything you need in it and instructions. But I started getting requests for workshops, and so I'm like, yeah, I can do a workshop. We can do virtual or in person, and kind of going where the wind takes me. That's been something. But otherwise, personal life, navigating, I also still work my full 9 to 5 job. I haven't set out to make Paper Clouds my full-time thing yet. We moved cross country this year, got married, and now we have a little one on the way due in April. So there's a lot of things to juggle, and I'm going to try to figure it all out.
Yeah, as I was saying to you before we jumped on this recording, I think about this every day. Like I literally think about how am I going to run this business in a way where I can manage having kids, and like we get married this year and there's already just so many pulls on our time. And I don't want to say I'm busy because like literally everybody's busy. It's a cop out, I feel like. So how have you been able to do it all?
Oh my gosh, I wish I had a better system in place, but I'm a little bit all over the place still because it's not always easy for me to switch brains, like from my normal like day job, which is less creative, and then switch that one off, go to Paper Clouds. I need to create some fun content for Instagram. I need to create a new craft project. Oftentimes like Paper Clouds will be on the weekend where I can like dedicate my full creative brain and not as much during the week. It's hard to find the balance. I'm definitely still learning. It's going to be a big learning process once there's a little crying baby in the mix as well. It's honestly been like a little daunting thinking about how I'm going to manage everything with a child. But I was listening to your earlier podcast episode with Nicole Calhoun, and she was talking about how she has 3 boys, runs a yoga studio, and also had another job. And I was like, okay, you know what? Women do this. I can do it. We can do it.
Yeah, I love that you say you're just open to learning. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, honestly, is like nobody really has it all figured out. And even when you see people on social media who have big followings, who have viral content, or who are seemingly really, really successful, it's not that they're not. But I bet if you were to be in very close proximity or intimately in conversation with these people, I think that they all feel the same way. I mean, I was having a conversation just yesterday with a really good friend, and she she made the comment to me. She's like, you've just taught me so much about organization this year. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I wish you could see my office right now, or I wish you could see inside my brain right now, and it's so funny what the difference is between perception and reality. And so I think these conversations are so helpful because it's like, I don't know that anybody feels like, man, I'm just nailing it. I mean, what do you think about that?
No, it's so true. And I also feel like you're so organized because you're making lists and you have nice planners and everything on Instagram. But I sometimes will have people be like, oh, Paper Clouds is killing it, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad that's the impression you have from Instagram. But every day I feel like, oh my gosh, am I failing at everything? But then you have some days where you're like, what am I doing? And then other days, like I just got an email from a customer that said, your kit was amazing, and sent a picture of her niece that had done it over Christmas break. And I'm like, okay, we're back in a good headspace again. So it's really just a roller coaster.
Yeah, it truly is. I can also attest to your kits. I think gifting is my love language, and I love gifting paper clouds. I really do, especially for the creative people in my life. I got one of your kits, the candle kit, for my fiance's mom, and she was elated when she opened the package. And the first thing she said was like, oh my gosh, all of these colors. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I'm going to need to tell Grace this, because oftentimes you don't really even see your impact in a way where it helps. Like, you just know what you're doing on the back end. You just know the content you're sharing. You just know the ideas you have. You don't always see the impact it has on people. So how have you been able to find that, like to keep those creative juices flowing and to keep that motivation there? What's helped you continue going when it feels like, oh my gosh, should I just give up, or things are falling apart? And not to project that on you, but like I have those days weekly. So, it's like.
Yeah. One thing you said there about feedback that's so true. I find it so hard to get feedback from people. And I get it, because like none of us ever want to fill out surveys and feedback forms, but I do it now because I'm like, I have to pay it forward. But keeping the momentum, I just think some days you're going to be like over it, right? And then some days you're going to be like, wait a second, I still have so many more ideas and so many things that I want to accomplish and try. And then you go back to like why you started in the first place, which you can definitely lose sight of along the way because you're so focused on finding growth for your business, expanding your follower count, which I'm trying not to do. And then you're like, oh wait, but I did this because I want to help other people find space for creativity. And that is something I can still do. Which brings me to another point, I want aspiring entrepreneurs to know is that a lot of things don't happen overnight in this era of TikTok, where we see people go viral overnight, or so it seems a lot of the time. You just think like, well, it's been 6 months and I haven't blown up, so I got to throw in the towel. But it can take time. And I love listening to stories about founders like Tatcha is a super famous makeup brand now, and it took her like 15 years. So you have to listen to the How I Built This episode about her, because she like went through some crazy stuff to launch her brand and finally made it happen. So I think it's good to talk to other people and have other women in the arena to talk to know that like you're not alone and growth is hard.
I think in the beginning, I got lost in the dream a little bit of like so excited about creating financial freedom. And that is really like a driving factor for me, is not so much financial. I guess I should say like more time freedom to be able to like go and do as I please and like spend time with people when I want to spend time with people. And that was a big driving factor in the beginning. And so I remember looking at all of these accounts on Instagram specifically and with coaches I was working with, and it was selling this dream of like, yes, this is possible. And I think some of the language that was missing a little bit was like just the reality of the grind. It's not that it's not worth it, because it's absolutely worth it. But if you're not rooted in your why, if you're not very clear on like to come up with a creative outlet for busy people, or like me wanting to like impact women and help them push the limits on what's possible for their lives, it's like if you don't have that why and you're just in it because you're like, oh, I want to work from home, or I want to make a lot of money, or I want to have all this freedom, it's like you're going to get derailed by the grind because it really is a roller coaster and there's no two ways about it. But one of the things that I think, I'm glad you shared those stories similar to what you were sharing about the makeup brand, but I also think about and ask myself, okay, if I were to quit in year 2, but year 3 was going to be like a $500,000 year, for example, I'm going to be really upset that I quit. You know what I mean? Like you just don't know when it's going to take off or when things are going to really, really explode for you. And so it's like you have to give yourself due justice to see that through.
That's true. And I think one thing that's very challenging for me, but I want to get like tattooed on myself is to enjoy the journey, because growth, that's what you want in a business. And so you're constantly thinking about like what the next thing is. And it's hard to stay present as a business owner and just in life in general. But you really have to, there's always going to be something else. So trying to focus on enjoying like what you're working on right now and the stage that you're in, I think is really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Presence is, I was saying this in the Rise Facebook community that I run, is presence is your best and biggest present to other people, especially the people you love. And so creating ways to just get grounded is just huge, and really enjoying where you're at. Will you tell us a little bit about the, switching gears a little bit, but I think about this is like kind of grounding too, but will you tell us a little bit more about the resin kits that you have? Because I know those have been really popular. I personally, visually am drawn to those. I love the aesthetic. Can you talk to us a little bit about where that came from, your excitement there, like how those are doing?
Yeah, for sure. And that's when I talk about like trying to go where I'm seeing success. Resin is one of those things. It's definitely a craft kit where we've seen the most success so far. And so now I'm investing on offering more resin kits and doing more resin workshops. But if you haven't heard of resin, it's epoxy resin, and it comes in a liquid form. And then you pour it into a mold essentially, and then you can add like flowers and colors and make it pretty. And then it hardens overnight. And then you can have coasters or a jewelry tray. There's a lot of different things that you can make with resin. So it's really fun. And a lot of people haven't ever done it before. Like at this point, I think a lot of people have dabbled in candles. So they may think like, I don't need a kit for that. But resin is something a lot of people haven't tried, and it can seem daunting or complicated, but we make it really simple with very like clear step-by-step instructions and videos and everything. So that's been a really fun one. And yeah, I think we're going to try to invest a lot of time and energy there.
That was one that I also gifted. I don't know if it was a couple years ago or last year, but I also gifted another one, and I loved that one in particular. So I love the idea of resin, and especially workshops, because that's cool that you can bring more people in with you if you have like a friend that you want to try to experience that with. Is that what people are asking for?
Yeah. So I've had requests from corporate events to do like for their clients or as a team building exercise, which is great. But I also think crafts are like kind of starting to have a moment where I'm seeing a lot of videos on TikTok and Instagram. There was, for all the Bachelorette fans out there, Rachel Kirkconnell hosted a craft night at her house. And I was like, okay, crafting is becoming very cool and mainstream. This is wonderful. So yeah, I think like getting together, doing something different with your friends is just a great way to try something new.
Okay, this is maybe like a coachy moment, but did you consider reaching out to her with a kit?
I did, and I think I still will. I just can't imagine she'll see my message, but I figure I might as well try, right?
Yeah, you might as well try. I mean, the worst case scenario is she just doesn't answer. That happens to me a lot.
I'll do it after our chat today.
You guys, when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I had very few examples of women in leadership positions. And sometimes when I shared what I was building with my friends or with my coworkers at the time, they just didn't really get it. Even when I wanted to create some new goals and talk about those ambitions, I didn't feel like I had a community of women to share that with, which is why I found an online community of other multi-passionate, like-minded women. If you can relate, join us in our Rise Facebook community, where you get free weekly coaching, a network of amazing women who are also in the arena, and you're the first to know about the latest offers. Women leaders rise together. See you inside our Rise Facebook community. You can find the link in the show notes. Okay, so we talked about a little bit about like navigating growth and change, especially like kind of paying attention to like what the people want or what people are really enjoying, and then being able to create more opportunities to sell those products. When it comes to navigating growth and change in your personal life, do you see that as correlating to business? Because like you are a mom, like you're going to be a mom and you're a wife and a business owner and also work. And so how have you navigated that in your personal life and been able to kind of prioritize you?
Yeah, it's a good question. One that I'm going to have to like really grapple with head on pretty soon. But I think it might actually be helpful in helping me like narrow down what's really important. I've heard that from some of my mom friends is like you'll cut out the non-essential because you just only have time for the essential. I read this book by a business owner at one point who talked about shiny things. Don't get distracted by the shiny things. Sometimes I'm like, is TikTok a shiny thing? Like there's so many areas you can invest time in as a business owner. And you have like you have to do your taxes. I want to do more on Pinterest. There's so many things that I want to do. It's hard to figure out where to focus your time sometimes. And so maybe being a mom will help me be like, nope, I only have time for the essential, and that's going to be XYZ, you know? So hoping for more clarity with less time, but we'll see how it goes.
I think that's a great idea. And I think that like the concept of prioritizing your time like that is like, okay, if I'm going to drive the needle forward and I have like 2 hours a day, what do I do in those 2 hours? I mean, I know for the way my business coach teaches it and the way that I try to help my clients through that is what is going to be your money-making activities. And I don't think that's a sexy thing to talk about because it's like, well, I want to be in this for the right reasons. And it's like, well, if money creates freedom and it creates more time. And it's like, if you prioritize growing and selling, of course, then you do have more time for more impact with more people. And so I know that like for me, when I'm in a season of growth, honestly, it needs to be all the time. It is strictly like non-negotiables in the morning are marketing and prioritizing like the communities I want to invest in, usually on Instagram, and then having conversations. Have you gotten into paid advertising yet, like Facebook ads or anything?
My day-to-day job I'm in ad sales. So like I have a bit of a background in marketing and advertising. This is the first time I've been on the actual content creation side of things. I've run small campaigns here and there, mostly like boosting content to people in a certain area interested in crafting and DIY. But I haven't done like consistent campaigns. I would like to do that more. But again, it's just one of those things. I'm like juggling so much. But yeah, I mean, I do think every time I run a paid campaign, I see more website traffic, right? So it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, really, I was kind of asking it for like selfish reasons because I've been organic for such a long time, or it feels like a long time. It's only been 1 year full time, but I keep thinking back about like my first client in 2018 and thinking like, gosh, it's been 5 years, but truthfully, like full time feels very different. And that was one of my intentions for last year. And so I teach this like vision process where you go through your whole intentions for the next year. And I was reading back my letter that I had written with all my intentions for 2023. And I was like, you know what? I didn't do paid advertising on Facebook like I wanted to. And so now it's something that I'll look into in 24 now. But I was just wondering like if you've found the return or if you feel like it's more valuable to do other things to prioritize your time.
It's hard to see like a one-to-one return on your ad spend. And as a small business owner, it's hard to see that money go out. You're like, I spent $300, $500 on an ad campaign, and I didn't really see like immediate return on orders, but oftentimes it can take longer than that. It's one of those things. I think it can be really helpful, but you've done such a great job growing your community with organic. But yeah, I mean, I would say definitely give it a try.
Yeah. I'm just curious what you've thought dabbling in it.
I can help you.
Yeah, you
I'll
can.
help you set it up.
I honestly would take your help. I bought a Facebook course, like a Facebook ads course, and then ran into a hang up. And I don't even know enough to explain the hang up, but one of my clients is digging into that course. And so I just like shared it with him. And so hopefully he'll have some feedback soon. But it's just like a continual experiment. Like what is working? What is not working? How do we pivot? How do we shift?
Yeah. And the other thing I would say about that, like in the beginning, I was pretty good about enlisting help with like from you, and then I hired a photographer because I didn't have photography skills, and I hired freelancers to help me with like the logo and my box design. But since then I've really been trying to go at it by myself. I bought a nice camera and I learned how to do some video editing. So like everything I do is by myself. Again, in an effort to like not spend money and have more of a profit. But I think as I'm going into this next chapter of my life, I'm realizing that like I can't do it by myself anymore. I need to start investing to enlist help again. So whether that means hiring people or hiring more freelancers, spending more on paid ads, I think I'll burn out otherwise. So that's definitely a route you might have to go as a business owner.
Absolutely. And I think it's different too. Like obviously I'm service-based and you're product-based. So there's different challenges there and different overhead too. But I know that you expanded and you have 2 part-time employees. How do you utilize them? How did they help you fill some of the gaps?
Yeah, they came about organically, to use that word again. But one of them was a friend in Charlotte who she used to help me at pop-up markets just as like for free being a friend. And she was such a good salesperson that when I left Charlotte, she had offered to continue to do markets. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like I've seen you selling my products. Like you do it better than me. Absolutely. And markets are a scary thing because you're like face to face with people selling this thing that you put like your blood, love, and sweat and tears into. And then I had another woman who was following me on Instagram and she lives in Chicago and she basically just reached out and said like, I'd love to be a part of Paper Clouds. I was like, oh, okay, great. Don't have a lot of capital right now. So it would be definitely a part-time thing and help with markets and maybe try to help with getting some workshops and stuff like that. So yeah, it's early stages. I hope to get to the point where I can like hire more full-time and offer stock at some point. Wouldn't that be great? It's hard to let go. It's hard to not have all the control, but I think it's necessary for growth.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. When it comes to like where you want to go with Paper Clouds, is it something that you eventually want to do full time? I know that you'll be on leave when you have your little one. And so is it something that like that's the big picture hope and dream, or like what's 5 years look like?
That's the big picture, hope and dream. I'd love for Paper Clouds to be like a household name, a craft kit company, and even just like where you get your crafts online. I don't know that we'll ever compete head to head with Michael's, but maybe a more boutique version. Yeah, I would love that. And there's so many crafts out there. Like there's so many potential kits we could do, but I need like full-time creative people. And I'd love to get to the point where I can just be like creative CEO and have a CFO to handle the taxes and everything that's not my forte. So yeah, the dream.
Oh, that's so cool. I've just been excited to like follow along in the journey and been able to like see the product firsthand. If any of you guys are listening and you're like, I could really let my creative juices flow from time to time, or anybody that's into puzzles, I know that picked up, and just kind of crafting, sewing. I mean, there's a lot of different options with Paper Clouds. We'll definitely share the link so you guys can check it out because I just think it's such a fun concept. And this is like one of the most exciting, I guess, startup companies that I've like been honored to see in the beginning. And so I'm just excited for your growth and where to go from here. So I guess now you're navigating having your little one and just kind of preparing for motherhood. How are you thinking about that?
I'm trying to figure out how to put everything as much on like auto drive and automate as much as possible while I go through maternity leave and everything. Essentially keep the lights on without putting a ton of time in every day. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be exciting.
I think that you're going to be awesome.
I'll let everyone know what I learn about how to juggle afterwards. Do's and don'ts.
Yeah, totally. Well, I have just one more question that I like to ask everybody that I get to talk with on here. And the podcast is, of course, called The Women in the Arena. And one of the reasons that I wanted to invite you on is because you're somebody that had that idea and then acted on it, not just like, hey, this would be cool to do, but you really took that leap of faith. And while I know the big picture is going full time, it still is a huge leap of faith and like takes a ton of courage to do what you're doing now. And so I just want to know what your definition is of a woman in the arena.
When I think about that, to me, it means women who are going after their dreams, who are making it happen, and who are taking time to invest in themselves and their dreams, whatever those might be. And the arena aspect of it makes me think investing time in other women and talking to other women and helping other women and essentially just supporting one another as we try to navigate multiple careers, children, businesses, everything that we have on our plates.
I love that. And thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. I think you were incredibly honest, and that's always really helpful for other women getting started or even going after, even if your dream isn't entrepreneurship, but you want to make a career change or you want to start leading something outside of your job. Like, it all takes courage. And so I just appreciate your time and sharing everything.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so fun talking to you.
I hope today's episode inspired you on your journey in the arena. Make sure to check out the show notes in the description for a rundown of today's show with all the important links. If you enjoyed this, please share with a friend. I know how much it means to me when my friends share podcasts. Leave us a review and let us know what landed with you over on Instagram at Paige_Renee15. As always, your best bet is on yourself.